Alright, well I've got all the containers set up and ready to go. As you can see, I've got a freshwater one. I've got 3 litres in each container. Seawater, freshwater, and this is the salt water. Now I've used 6 tablespoons of table salt in this water. And that's I did a fair bit of homework, and yeah, a lot of places said use 3 to 1, like 1 part salt, 3 parts water, and I thought that's a bit ridiculous. It's not really practical for camping. So I did a heap more research, and I found a fella who was doing similar experiments to what I've got going here, and he was using 2 tablespoons per litre of water. So I thought I'm going to go with that, and his experiments worked out quite positive, so that's what I'm going with. Alright, so I've already put the salt in here. I've already filled them up. You don't need to watch me do that. I've already put the salt in here, so I'm just going to put 2 more litres of water in there. I've got 1 litre of water in there. Give it a bit of a stir. Get that salt into there, and then I'll pop them all in the freezer. I'll freeze them for 48 hours. Lucky I've got a spare freezer for this, because our freezer is pretty full of food. Get that salt mixed in there nicely. So that's 2 tablespoons of salt per litre of water. Now when I've done this experiment previously in my own camping trips, just on a much smaller scale, obviously I've used a lot less salt, because it seems a little bit wasteful. But that's the best instructions I can get, so alright, here goes. I'll put them in the freezer. Alright, I've got them in the freezer. Here they are. Lucky we have a spare freezer. Not usually for things like this, usually for Christmas and do's and stuff, but there we go, there's all 3 of them. Now I'll freeze them for 48 hours, sorry, 2 nights. Always freeze your big blocks of ice for 2 days. That's kind of a pre-requirement with all your ice bricks and everything. Overnight's just not enough for camping. You need a good 2 days to get a good solid freeze in them. Alright, so there they are. I'll pull them out in 2 days, I'll throw them in the esky, and we'll see how well which one stays frozen the longest. It's a bit of a test with seawater versus freshwater versus salted water. Alright, cool, let's see what happens. Here we go, stage 1 of the experiment. I had a result I didn't even expect. It's the freezing times of the different waters. Now these have just been in overnight, about 12 hours roughly. Here's the fresh water. It's just got a thin screed of ice, and it's still just cold water underneath that. I'm sure it'll be frozen by this afternoon, but it's not yet. The salted water, where's the side? There we are. It's got a bit of a membrane going, pretty similar to the fresh water. Yeah, very similar. And this is the interesting one. I'll check this one. This is the result I didn't expect. This is nearly a block. Look at that, solid. It's actually got ice underneath. Yeah. So there you go. There's experiment number 1. That's a result I didn't even expect. Alright, I'll check these this afternoon and see how well they're frozen. Well, I've got them out at the 36-hour frozen mark. Let's see how they're freezing up. The fresh water's quite solid. Seawater, quite solid. Salted water. This is a weird one. It's pretty solid. It's not 100% frozen yet. Another 12 hours in the freezer. I might even go an extra night. There's a fair bit of water volume there. I'll see what happens. G'day, Robbo here. Right, this week I'm finally doing the experiment of seawater frozen versus salted water frozen versus freshwater frozen in the camp esky. Alright, I've got them all ready to go. I've had them freezing for 5 days in the freezer to get them nice and frozen. I've got them in this esky here. I've got a few other things that are already cold. I've got half a carton of beer, a carton of cans, and a bottle of soft drink I found in the fridge. I stole off the kids. Alright, to fill the esky up a little bit. And we'll finally do the test. Yeah, seawater apparently stays frozen quite a while too, even longer again, but I'll do the test and we'll figure it out. Now the ratio I've used on the salted water, which is the one everyone wants to debate, salted water versus fresh water, I've used 2 tablespoons per litre, 2 tablespoons of salt per litre of water. Okay, which is 17 grams of salt. I've just used regular kitchen salt. I've just bought really cheap stuff from one of the major supermarkets, and I've used that as the experiment to make it happen. And I've researched this. If you Google it, you'll find out a lot of people will say you need to go 1 part salt and 3 parts water, which is a ridiculous amount of that. That's not a reasonable proposition for camping. You'd use so much salt. That's a litre of salt for 3 litres of water. You're better off just using fresh water than wasting so much. So all right, I've got the experiment all set up, ready to go. And we'll test it. I'm going to test it every day. I've got a kitchen thermometer I've been testing it with. All the blocks are roughly about 26 degrees at the moment, minus 26 degrees. So they're nice and cold. They've been freezing for 5 days. I'll check them again every day for the next 7 days, and we'll finally answer the age-old question of who stays frozen longest. Salted water or fresh water. And yeah, I've chucked seawater in there because I've talked to a few of my fisherman friends and they reckon seawater actually stays frozen even longer again. Alright, so I've got the esky packed. I'll put a towel over it because it keeps it just a little bit cooler. It keeps the temperature in a bit. So I've got to make it last a week. Alright, there we are. Ready to go, and I'll check it again tomorrow. Alright, day 1 after 24 hours in the esky. Let's have a look at these things. Let's check them out. Move the towel. It's been a stinking hot day today, so the results could be just about anything. Although it's under true conditions. Alright, there's a bit of cool in there. See how lucky we are. Alright, the salt water. Let's check it out. Oh, that's salted water. That doesn't look really good. Oh, a bit of ice in there. It's a bit cool. It's quite defrosted. In 24 hours, actually, I expect better results than that. Alright, the fresh water. I've used this one plenty of times. This should be slightly melted. And yep, just as I thought, it's got a little bit of water in it. Let's check seawater. Seawater is much like fresh water. They're pretty well identical. So there we go. I'll take the temperatures later, I'll check them out. Now looking at that result, already in 24 hours, it seems like salted water doesn't work very well unless you put an awful lot of salt in it. Alright, well check it again tomorrow and let's see how it happens. Alright. Let's see if tomorrow's another scorcher. I guess this is real world conditions though. I'm in an old house with no air conditioning. It gets quite warm, although it has got a high ceiling, so it's naturally cooled. But I'll leave it for another day and see what happens. Alright, let's check the ice bricks out today, 48 hours. We've had a 35 plus degree day here in good old Coffs Harbour, so it's been quite warm. It's definitely testing real world conditions. I expect a fair bit of defrosting. Well, let's see what they look like. It's still cool in there at least. Well, that beer feels warm. The coal is alright. That beer's, you could probably drink that one. The can's still feel cold. Alright, this one I expect to be defrosted after yesterday. Oh, look at that. Completely defrosted. 48 hours. In fact, that's so defrosted, I might as well take it out. Wow. That's salt water. Didn't work at all. Alright, so it shows it's a complete wives' tale. It doesn't work even slightly. Wow. Seawater's nearly defrosted. It's yeah, it's coming apart. Looks like it's going to be a 3-day test. Alright, that's seawater. Let's see how fresh water looks. Like I said, they're incredibly hot today. Oh, look at that. The clear winner is fresh water in 48 hours. The clear winner. Well, there you go. Mind you, the freshwater is the only one with stuff on top of it. It may be a slightly biased test. We'll have a look. Alright, I'll close him back up, but there we have it. Hey, the salted water didn't work at all. It's completely defrosted. It's still cold, but I'll tip that out tomorrow afternoon. And the test will be just between the seawater and the freshwater. And we'll see how long the freshwater lasts for, I guess. That's the next option. I was planning on leaving it for a week, but that's certainly not going to happen. So there we have it. Alright, day 3 of the ice challenge. 72 hours of salt water versus freshwater versus seawater. Well, we already know the salt water is a complete urban myth. It's tried and tested at the moment, and it melted yesterday. Mind you, it was a 35-degree day, so we're using real world conditions. Let's see what we've got today. Still a bit of cool in there, which is a good sign. Those beers are coolish. Probably not cool enough to drink though. Beer drinker will probably get upset. Well, the salt water hasn't refrozen. I knew that. It was already melted yesterday. Let's check the seawater out. Here we go. Oh, it's completely defrosted as well. It's a little bit cool. It's cool water. That's it. Completely defrosted. And so far, it's looking like it's an absolute urban myth. Salt adding salted water. And here we go. 72 hours. 2 35-degree days and 1 30-degree day, and there we go. Everything's defrosted. We've got a little bit of ice left in that one. So it's looking like even in the best conditions, I'm only going to get 4 days out of this. I was going to do this experiment for 7 days, but it looks like tomorrow night will be the last night. Alright, well, we'll check it again tomorrow, see if the other one's defrosted, and that'll be it. Alright, well, here's the final day of my saltwater versus freshwater test in the icebox. I'm going to end it a little bit early. I was hoping to get another 12 hours out of it, but I imagine everything's already defrosted and done. Let's see how we look. Alright, not even much cold in that now. Mate, those beers are hardly cold. You'd have to be pretty desperate to drink them. And probably buy some more ice. Well, as we know, the salted water defrosted within 48 hours. So that's the salted water. That turns out to be a complete urban myth. The seawater was defrosted within 72 hours, completely defrosted. And let's check the freshwater. And the freshwater is completely defrosted in 84 hours. There we go. And everything's, yeah, still a little bit of cold. Oh, that beer's a bit colder. The one down the bottom. Probably drink one of those. It's not icy cold, but it's cool. It's cooler than the ambient temperature. So there we have it. I've had it in real world temperatures. We've had 2 35-degree days here in Coffs Harbour and another 30-degree day. So that's the 3 days we've had. I couldn't have had better weather for it, really. The esky hasn't moved from here. I've kept it inside, but we're in an old house. There's no air conditioning or nothing. We just run a few fans to keep cool, but we're usually at work anyway. So there you have it. The test is finally done. It turns out it's just a rumour mill, the saltwater thing. A few videos made in America I did check out, and they made out like the salt water lasted twice as long. So I thought that's what encouraged me to do this test, and I've seen a few people talking on Facebook and social media in general saying salted water works. But there it is in real time. It doesn't work. It's an urban myth. You're better off with fresh water. The bigger the volume and the longer it's frozen for, the better it is. Yeah, so I did all the tests, and here it is in real time, real proper test. All right, so I'm glad you enjoyed this video and watch my other videos. I got a whole heap of them on the Robot Media Robbo. And all right, I'll do some more camping ones eventually, but I've been wanting to do this test for a while, so it's now done. So there you go. All melted, 84 hours. Yeah, definitely, yeah, time to buy more ice if you're out camping. You can't get a week out of this, even though they reckon this is a week-long esky, but they do live in Melbourne, the people who make these. It's a good quality esky, as you can see. It's a Techni Ice brand, so I can't really get much better. That's as good as it gets. All right, well, there's the test. There's the saltwater versus seawater versus freshwater test. And saltwater was the least successful, seawater was the middle successful, and freshwater was the most successful. It stayed frozen the longest. All right, so there you go. That's the end results. All right, cool. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next clip. Laters.